Podcasting from somewhere in the San Francisco Bay Area, the birthplace of Bruce Lee, the iPhone, and the bendy straw. This is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
There was a dream a million miles away. There was fire in
Amazon.com. You know, I won't be surprised if more and more stuff that I shop for, buy, and get shipped to my home comes from Amazon. It's just a reality, right? And if this is your reality, go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon banner to get to Amazon. Why am I asking you to do so? Well, it is a no-cost-to-you way. If you like listening to Ruel's Running Podcast, it is a way that you can help the show out without spending more than you've already spent while shopping at the good folks at Amazon.com. So help us out. Go to ruelsrunning.com, click through to the Amazon.com site, and shop, connect, and enjoy. Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm on the go. Welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host, Ruel. It's another traveling show. I'm on the road. I'm rigged up with a portable recorder, mounted via clamp and suction cup device on my visor mirror. And it worked out last week, so I'll do it again this week. How's everybody doing? You know, it's been crazy lately, and it's a nice break for me to be able to sit down and, even though I am driving, record and get a chance to talk to you guys. So, this is Ruel's Running Podcast. It's a podcast about not entirely putting one foot in front of the other, like running a marathon, a half marathon, 5K, 10K, you know, any of that stuff. But it's also about, you know, other things in our lives, like family, health, play, you know, life. Things that we run in our lives, our jobs, our families, all that good stuff. So, a lot of things to talk about, and glad you're here. If you are a new listener, yes, welcome. Hope you stick around. And if you find that this ends up suiting you to some extent, maybe the other episodes will as well. So check those out as soon as you can. If you are a return listener, what's up, guys? I'm gonna raise my cup of coffee and get a sip. As usual, it's coffee with a splash of heavy cream. Sometimes, who am I kidding? Most of the time, that's what I get to operate off of most of the weekday, because it gives me just enough energy via the heavy cream to get me through the day, and it's just enough of a boost via the coffee to give me a jump start. And and I like it a lot. Speaking of coffee, my wife and I had a sort of a second wedding anniversary celebration. We did the first one with the family at a restaurant in Walnut Creek at a restaurant called Stanford's, and it's a pretty good place, and the kids enjoyed it. It was a really nice time. We had an early dinner, and we did go early, yes, and the good thing about that was, you know, we basically had a lot of room to hang out and not a lot of distractions. We got a lot of attention from the staff, and put a little life into living. And what that means is I ate, things like I had a little bit of the bread with a butter. You know, I had a tortilla chip, you know, that came with the appetizer, the artichoke spinach dip. You know, so what the heck, right? It's our wedding anniversary. Just, you know, have a taste of whatever we order, and not be too picky and restrictive, knowing full well that I'd pay the price down the road, and I can get to that later. But I was kind of excited because I got a chance to order a drink. You know, I may have talked about it before. I can't remember anymore. But I'm not used to ordering a bourbon or a scotch from a restaurant or a bar. I just feel kind of awkward. It's just not my thing. But I think I'm getting the hang of it, kinda. Because after we ordered, you know, for the table, and you know, the waitress had asked if we wanted drinks up front, but I told her that I'd think about it. So then once we did all the other ordering for the table, for the family, for the kids, and then she left, came back with waters and whatnot. Then I asked her for something from the bar, asked her for a single scotch with a little bit of ice, and then this is where it gets awkward. Then I asked what types of scotch they had, and she started naming a few, and I'm just clueless. None of them rung a bell, and my fear was, man, if I just pick, you know, any one of those that she's spitting out or, you know, naming, what if it's like a really expensive scotch? And I didn't want to deal with that. I just wanted something to enjoy. You know, and a high-priced item is definitely nothing I would enjoy, because I'd look at the bill at the end of the day and then I would just feel sick. But I made the mistake of saying, the only thing that came to mind was the makers. And for those of you who are scotch or bourbon drinkers, know full well that Makers is a bourbon, not a scotch. But the waitress didn't point that out right away. Maybe she didn't think about it. Maybe she didn't know. I just asked if she had Makers, and then she said, yeah, we do. We have it back there. So I said, okay, give me one of those. Give me a single of those. And when she finally came back, she said, well, we don't have a scotch named Makers. I'm like, oh, it's a bourbon. I apologize for the confusion. But, you know, she brought it to me, and I enjoyed it, and just a little taste. It's good. The dinner was good. Time with the family was good. Actually, it was great. Who am I kidding? Yeah, it was great. So, that was probably the day before the actual wedding anniversary date. And just yesterday, you know, I was away from the office. My wife and I went to do some appointments, some medical and school type appointments, and in between we had an early lunch together at a nice place called Pacific Catch. It's awesome. First time there, and it was really good. The poke is good. They have something called the Serrano poke, and it's you know, it's, if you're not familiar with poke, it's not Pokemon Go type stuff. It's salmon, seasoned, marinated, and it was a Serrano style. Basically, what it meant was it had some heat to it because they had put some sliced Serrano peppers on it, and it was good. And they served it with I can't remember fried wonton chips. So again, you know, more life into living. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Really good. Enjoyed it. But yeah, because lately I've been doing a lot of life into living around celebrating wedding anniversaries. You know, it's been taking its toll on me gut-wise. And for the new listeners who don't know what life into living is, I've talked about it in the previous episode. It's something that Vinny Tortorich from the Celebrity Fitness Trainer uses when he describes on his NSNG lifestyle how, you know, if you eat something that is, you know, that contains a grain or a sugar, basically, because his approach to his lifestyle, NSNG, which I prescribe to, is no sugars, no grains. But you can put life into living, which are the exceptions in life, so that you can enjoy things in life, like a celebratory lunch or a dinner, you know, moments in the holidays. But the rest of the year, you know, you're, for the most part, NSNG. So that's what life into living is. It's those moments that you pick and choose so that you can enjoy and create those moments and memories, and participate in life. It's only a problem when it's every single day you're putting a life into living. Then that's just, that becomes a problem. So yeah, gut-wise, oh boy, man. I've talked about it in other episodes where if I have like a corn chip or a handful of corn chips, I pay the price. Where, I'll get stuff I'll get breakouts on my face, my forehead, or around on my face. Unusually around my eyes. It's just weird. If I carb up too much via things like bread, I pay the price. Gut-wise, just things get kind of gnarly down there, and it's when I go to relieve myself, when I go take a poop, it's like the devil had lived in my bottom and decided to poop himself, and while I poop, and it's just gnarly, and it's and I apologize that I'm grossing you out. So there's a gross advisory in place somewhere on the website. But yeah, it's when I'm pretty much clean, NSNG, and I'm staying away from these things like bread or corn chips, the gas, the bloat, none of that stuff. The gnarly stench in the bathroom, none of that's there. It's like, I'm not saying that my poop don't stink, but it's not really, really a problem, And I walked like yesterday, because I'm still kind of clearing all that stuff out. It takes, it was like, you take a poop and you're done, but then you go out through your day thinking like, man, I have not eliminated everything that needs to be eliminated. It's like, I'm walking around with with this nagging thing in my bottom, like, man, I gotta go. But you don't really have to go, but it feels like you have to go. I don't know. It's like you haven't really wrapped up the session, and so, sorry for the grossness. I apologize. I just had to talk about it. I think, it's just another testament to when you're NSNG, when you're eating what you're supposed to do, and you're keeping away from the crap, things clear out as they should, and they're not so problematic and disgusting as they would. Your body's like, what the heck are you eating, bro? Man, you're making me sick in here. Therefore, I'm gonna give you face breakouts. Therefore, I'm gonna make it really stink up in your bowels. Therefore, I'm gonna make it really uncomfortable. And you know what? I may just throw a migraine to boot. That's what happens. So, yeah, well, speaking of migraines, I've talked about it in the past. I am a migraine sufferer. I've been a sufferer since the freshman year in high school, the 9th grade. But since eating cleaner, for the past 4 years, I've got a better handle on it. But I know. Just now that I've mentioned it, I've just cursed myself. I'm probably gonna get a migraine today. But and it's not because I said it. It's because I am recovering from all of the life into living. But I mean, back to migraines. For the most part, I've gotten a better handle on it, control of it, and it's a great thing. And someone asked in the Vinny Tordrich No Sugar No Grains group about migraines and how, if NSNG helps, because I guess this individual had a friend who is a sufferer, and they're probably curious about the lifestyle and if it will help things like migraines. My good friend Lonnie Beecham responded, and he tagged me on the post that I have a history of migraines myself, and I've been able to benefit from, keeping away from things like gluten and wheat and so I chimed in and basically said, I feel that the inflammation that is created from not being on NSNG because of eating things like bread and sugar and stuff like that, it's enough to increase the frequency of migraines, increase the susceptibility to migraines, and increase or keep the duration of the migraines at a whatever they end up being. Now that I'm basically no sugar, no grains, inflammation has calmed down, and when I do get a migraine, for whatever reason, it isn't as long lasting, and it isn't as intense. Migraines are gnarly. When I started getting them, it wasn't good. It was really debilitating. It really knocked me out. Early on, it triggered vomiting, a lot of sensitivity to light, a lot of pain. Migraine sufferers get them on one side, and at its worst, it hits one side. It attacks basically the temple area, the eye in the same side, and the jaw, the teeth, on the same side. Sucks. It usually starts by visual aura. My vision is impaired. It's got this weird psychedelic view happening. I've described it as if you took your iPhone, and you smudged some water over it on the screen, and it would create this weird psychedelic haze. That's basically what the aura is for me, and it would happen for maybe half an hour these days. And that's what's the most troubling these days. That's the problem, because I can't operate if I can't see, I can't focus, and then the sensitivity to the light happens. So not only can't I focus, I can't open my eyes because it hurts. And all of that, early on was just a sign that the pain will come, and I don't know if the vomiting was a result of the fear, the anxiety that the pain was going to come, or if it was just hand in hand. But I tend to believe that as a migraine sufferer, having that anxiety that it's going to get worse, after you get the initial signs like the aura, that anxiety was so heightened that it would cause vomiting. It's crazy. But yeah, now it's different. I get the aura. I kind of get a sense that it'll take about 30-45 minutes for that aura to clear out. And then once the aura clears out, that's usually when the pain happens. So the pain happens, but these days it isn't as intense, and I don't experience the vomiting. But the pain is negligible, or is manageable. I don't take any medication. I don't take any pain medication. I just sort of ride it through. When it's really bad, then I just put my shades on, sit in a dark room or a shaded room, close my eyes, and just rest. The migraine does impact your cognitive abilities. I remember in the early 2000s coming into the office after going through the first half of the migraine, still sort of having the residual pain, and I could not remember the password for my computer. I just couldn't. That's what happens. Yeah,
bizarre. But yeah, eating clean can help. Not saying that it cures it. I read this article years ago from Ben Greenfield. He's a fitness expert, coach and whatnot, and he's all over the internet. Ben Greenfield Fitness. There was an article he had posted that said that not him, but he was writing about somebody else, I guess. I think it was about his wife's experience, and then had information about how I think his wife had seemed to cure her migraines away because of having a green smoothie. Interestingly, when I picked up on that article, it seemed to make sense to me, and I seemed to prescribe to what was being said because I happened to be already on that path where I had integrated a lot of green smoothies, daily green smoothies into my nutrition. This was pre-NSNG. For me, I was already on a path of taking away, things that weren't healthy and adding more of the healthy stuff that come with a green smoothie. And I was, when I was already on that path and I read that article, it made me think back like, hey, wait a minute. All this time that I've been cleaning up my nutrition, I can't remember having having a migraine. So I started paying attention more. I started tracking, okay, when I did get a migraine, what may have happened dietary-wise that could have triggered the migraine? Because I firmly believe there was a connection to what I was eating and my susceptibility to my migraines. So where instead of getting like migraines once a month, the migraines were being less frequent, maybe every 3 months, maybe every 6 months. It was anyone who gets frequent migraines, if you can get your migraines down to once every 3 months, it's like, whoa, it's a huge game changer. 6 months, every 6 months, that's practically being cured, right? But every time because they didn't happen so frequent, I was able to document when it happened and sort of speculate, okay, I did do these things or consume these things prior. They may have stacked up and against me, and that's why I got it. But I would also document things like, okay, it only lasted this long. I only experienced this type of pain, this level of pain. So eventually I stopped tracking, but it was enough paying attention to what I consumed and how and when I got those migraines that made me believe, yeah, definitely there's a connection. For me, I'm not cured. I don't think I'd ever say I'm cured, because the moment I say I'm cured, I get it, right? But it's as best as it could be. I mentioned that I've been putting a lot of life into living lately, and I feel like I'm kind of hovering around possibly getting a migraine. And how I know that is because the light sensitivity is starting to heighten a bit. Things that ordinarily just I'd be able to kind of read through and watch, basically that I see, is starting to sort of kind of like it bother me a little bit. Certain contrasting colors, even though I'm colorblind, right? There's still a level of color that I do see. There's still some sort of spectrum that I see, and certain combinations really mess with me. Maybe it's like a red or a blue, maybe next to each other. I can't really tell, but sometimes I'm looking at a screen where the background is, say, a blue, a nice, deep blue, and it starts to feel like it's burning into my eyes, and then I gotta look away, or it's a red. I don't know. It's just weird. So I just gotta be careful right now, right? I gotta stay as clean as possible. I got to try to promote things that are anti-inflammatory, maybe help my gut a bit more. Have more bone broth, have more sprinkles of turmeric in the broth, and whatever else, right? Help my gut out. Maybe have some fermented foods. Definitely just stay away from the life into living for a while. At least a week. But yeah. So that's that. I'm a firm believer that what you put in your body can change or can affect your migraines. Sorry for the lengthy migraine chat. It's just stuff that I live with and I know intimately, and I can go on and on with stories about how that evolved in my life, and and the worst moments it's ever gotten, how I've come close to like, I don't know, if you dig deep enough, you'll find people's testimonies about their migraines, and it's really you think about things like death and stuff. It's not an exaggeration. I've had my moments where at its worst, I've had to think like, oh my God, I do need to just, if I'm no longer alive, then I don't have to feel this pain. It would be great. Which makes no sense, but that's kind of what goes through your head when you're in the throes of a major migraine. There's things about, there's a relation to depression and anxiety for migraine sufferers. It's not a joke. I've been so far from those really, really rough times that, I have to look back at and read on other people's experiences to say, yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I'm so glad that I found the NSNG lifestyle. I'm so glad that Vinny Tortorich is there to share, the message of no sugar, no grains. And I'm so thankful for Anna Vocino, helping Vinny also spread the same message. And it's awesome. It not only has it changed my relationship and my experiences with migraines, but it also, it's gotten me healthier. It's helped me lose and maintain a chunk of weight. And I'm just one example that I try to live an example, and I try and see if my example can support other people's journey and inspire others. I'm not the expert. I'm just somebody who goes through what he goes through and shares his experiences. Let's see. Speaking of experiences, there was something I came across. I wanted to see if I can capture it here. It's a quote, and it says it's by someone named Jay Asher for something called 13 Reasons Why. And it says, quote, "I didn't feel physically sick, but mentally. My mind was twisting in so many ways. We once saw a documentary on migraines. One of the men interviewed used to fall on his knees and bang his head against the floor over and over during attacks. This diverted the pain from deep inside his brain, where he couldn't reach it, to a pain outside that he had control over." I guess, end quote. So that that's kind of crazy, right? The pain is beyond your reach, right, as it's described there. And this migraine sufferer is inflicting pain on the surface where he can have control, just so that he doesn't have to think about the pain that he can't control on the inside. I didn't do that, but I did things similarly where I can have a level of control, because I couldn't control the migraine. When I was in my teens, I would sit in the bathroom, squatting on the floor in the dark, and sometimes in the shower, with the shower turned on hot, not scalding hot, but hot enough to cause a sweat. For me, for some reason, breaking the sweat during a migraine was comforting. It wasn't healing, it wasn't a cure, but it was just one thing that I could sort of, I guess on the external side, have a little control of. Definitely cold made it really hard. It sort of, when I was in high school and I sat in the nurse's office because I was suffering from a migraine, she recommended putting an ice pack on my forehead. I did, and it didn't work, because what the cold did for my pain was it seemed to sharpen the pain and make it even more like penetrating. And so that's why I learned the opposite. The heat was more comforting, like a warm blanket. But I would be in the dark, either in the shower or not, but squatting on the floor, rocking myself like a person in an insane asylum, if you can imagine. Maybe you're wrapped in a straitjacket and it's just sort of sitting up against the corner, kind of like a crazy person, sort of just squatting and sort of rocking. I would do that sort of that rocking, and I would do a humming. I would hum just to get enough, I guess, vibration going in my skull that I can control. I've never had to talk about this before, but after reading this quote and other quotes like it about migraines, it was a reminder of how, I was the same way in my own way. Because I couldn't control the migraine, I couldn't control the pain, I needed something that I could hold on to and harness and be in control for myself. Otherwise, I would go crazy. And yeah, things like thoughts of, man, I would rather just be dead right now, because I wouldn't have to feel this pain. It's crazy. And I talked about it before. When I was in high school, the images of trying to illustrate what the pain was like. I sketched a skull, right, with two hands, with the thumbs kind of like stuck in the holes of the skull, and the hands were gonna split the skull apart. That's what my way of visualizing. If you have to think about how painful it is, it's that. It's someone trying to rip your skull apart. Their eyes, your eyes are hurting, your jaw's hurting, your temples hurting. It's crazy. Yeah. So, something to think about. If you know anybody who's suffering from migraines, and let them know that, this crazy guy on this silly podcast who talks about his migraines every once in a while, but he seems to get a better handle on it, because he's changed the way he lives, and he changed the way he eats via this no sugar, no grains lifestyle, NSNG. So something to look into. In the Facebook group, Lonnie had mentioned the books like Wheat Belly, and there are other books like Grain Brain. These are books that tell you the impact of what grains are on your health, and they're not books that say grains are healthy and wholesome and you should eat them. They're not. They're complete opposite. And why? And it goes against what we've been told for a long time, that eating whole grains are good for you. And it's still advertised a lot, and it's confusing, because you as Vinny Torres would say, you have good intentions and you want to do what's right, and what all of this advertising about healthy whole grains is doing seems to be, they're coming from the government, and they're coming from the medical folks in the medical industry, that it is healthy to do those things. And but then again, these books, Wheat Belly and Grain Brain, and they're from folks who are doctors themselves, and they've learned that early on in their careers they followed those guidelines that grains are supposed to be healthy and wholesome, but then over their careers they've found that it really isn't. And now they're spreading the message that and backing it up with research and all that, those things that I'm not an expert in. And So check those titles out as well if you want more than this silly little show to kind of tell you that, grains aren't good for you. Get them from the experts, right? Get them from people who do the research and people who have those high fancy doctor titles and stuff, right? And then get all the information and then make the decision yourself. And the way I like to think of it is, what? If you're not sure, try it out, right? I'm pretty sure you'll have a miserable time adjusting because it's not where you're used to. But if you stick to it enough, you'll start to notice positive, things. But it's not just taking away things, because as you take away things, you need to add things as far as what you're eating so that you don't feel deprived. And those things that you add are things like your healthy fats, right? Your healthy proteins. You're going to add more of those things, and you're healthy, adding more vegetables and stuff. You want to stay away from the processed grains, the breads, the crackers, the muffins, the biscuits, the donuts, all of that stuff, You want to stay from the processed sugars or any sort of sugars, added sugars, moderate, your fruit intake. Fruit's great, but it's not, you'd be better off eating more veggies than you are fruit. And if you do eat fruit in its wholeness and not in its juiced concentrated form. Yeah. So, yeah, check out those titles. Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis and Grain Brain by Dr. Perlmutter. There are links on ruwellsrunning.com on the resources page for titles, exactly those titles and others like it. But yeah, awesome. Thanks for sticking around and listening to me rant and mumble about migraines. But it is that important, and you'll be surprised how many people around you in your life deal with it. Pretty crazy. Hey, you know what? I want to hop right into. Want to give a shout out. Twitter. Katie King. What's up, Katie King? Thanks for following the silly show. Katie, she wrote to me that she is following me on Twitter and listening to the podcast now, thanks to Vinny promoting this side of things. I get a lot of followers as a result of Vinny, making mention that I'm around and I'm doing what I do. So Katie's wanted to say hi. I wanted to say hi back. I wanted to thank her. I thanked her, and I want to thank her here. Thanks for following. And I told her, oh gosh, now the pressure's on. I got to deliver. Right? But I also put it out there, like if she wanted more about my perspective, or if there's any questions that I might be able to help her with, I'm available. But really want to thank her. Yeah. What's up, Katie King? Hope you hear this episode, and just want to say thanks. Thank you very much. Hey guys, I want to give a run update, and the run update is this. My runs lately have been far and few, but I really, really cherish them. Literally, it's like one run a week. It's just been so crazy. But I've been tracking other people running. For instance, Carl Meltzer, Speed Goat Carl Meltzer. He currently and recently broke the record for what is it? The fastest through hike through the Appalachian Trail was something like 2,190 miles or something or other. And I posted stuff on the Facebook page at facebook.com/rulersrunning. It's incredible, He broke Scott Jurick's year-long record of the fastest, through the Appalachian Trail, and gosh, it's incredible. So, pretty excited. Was excited tracking Carl on his Facebook page and on the Red Bull website, and now there's just a lot more media going around the record-breaking adventure. It's cool, man. So cool. I'd never be in that position. But I do want to go out there and get running. Yeah. What else is going on? I guess. Let's see. I guess I'm gonna wrap it up soon. I gotta wrap it up soon. Work's been keeping me busy as well. That's what's also taking me away from the runs. It's the time of the year where it's crunch time for the teams to deliver things, so that come Q4 around the holidays, where it's pretty important from a consumer perspective that all systems sort of are as stable as possible, and we don't mess around with them and make changes. That's typical in the software industry, in the software world, where you've got consumers that, just like any other retail place, there's a lot of high traffic in Q4. People want to, the holidays come around, they want to do a lot of specials and deals and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's crunch time. Let's see. I guess I want to say the website does have a SpeakPipe widget. SpeakPipe is a way you tap on it, and you could record on the web a voicemail. A short voicemail. You can ask a question. You can leave some feedback. There's a good chance that I'd use it on the podcast if it's entertaining and if it's helpful. For the rest of the listeners, and for folks who aren't SpeakPipe fans, because it may sometimes need some configuring on your computer to actually work, and if it's on the iPhone, it may involve downloading an app, and sometimes that's just a hassle. Another way is you can just call a number and leave a voicemail. You can even text it. It's a Google Voice thing that I set up, and I'll share it here. You guys can leave feedback, ask a question. Again, I'd love to hear from you, and also, I may use the audio for the podcast, or I might talk about it on the podcast. It's easy to remember. Area code 650. The word mug, as in coffee mug, and Ruel, me, R-U-E-L, 650 M-U-G, R-U-E-L. No, not mug, as in rob me, but mug like a coffee mug. So yeah, easy peasy. Get a hold of me that way, and yeah.
Hey, Lonnie here. Just letting you know it's 7:50 and I'm running about 20 minutes behind to my first job. Just thought I'd let you know that. Peace. Hey, Lonnie here. Just letting you know I'm driving from point A to point B again, listening to your podcast. You must have recorded this thing yesterday, because I'm only a couple minutes in, and you're having a dialogue about what we talked about in Messenger. So just thought I'd let you know that I'm listening to you ramble on. So keep it up. See ya. Hey, Lonnie again. Just thought I'd let you know that I have blonde hair on my arms. I normally have pretty hairy black hair on my arms, but at work the other day I was spraying some hydrogen peroxide and it got it all over my arms, and it has bleached my hair out, so it's blonde now instead of black. So just thought I'd let you know that, in case you were wondering or worried about me. See ya. here. Just to let you know, it's 4:18. I'm still working. I picked up one daughter and took her home, dropped her off. Now I'm back out in the field. Got to go back to one of my commercial water jobs. Thought I'd let you know it's raining here. If it rains much harder for much longer, I will probably be working all weekend again like last weekend. So I hope it pours and comes another 10, 12, 14 inches because I like making money. See ya.
Hey, Ruel, just calling to let you know that I banged up 7 miles in my 5 fingers, and now I'm going to sit down and enjoy reading the Willie Nelson biography. So, check in with you. Have a good day. Bye.
I just want to say, check out rulesrun.com. Go through the resources page. That's where it's most interesting. There are several posts, all tied to the podcast. Many links. Check out our affiliates; they're there. And if anything is interesting, by all means, share it out. Share it with your friends who you think might be interested. And what else is coming down? I'm pretty excited. On top of everything, I'm still working on launching my other website, abadam.com. It's for my services as a web consultant, a new media consultant, things like that. The website is up, but it's not officially launched. There's other things that I'm planning for it. I've been chatting with a couple of potential clients recently, and it's pretty cool. Looking to help folks who need the help, and more on that. So if you can, check out abadam.com. And I have made it available for folks to sign up for updates so that they can get updates for when the site will officially launch. That would be much appreciated. And so that's that. With that, I'm going to sign out for now. Be sure to remember to hug a friend, hug family, eat something delicious, and go run something. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.